What is going on, guys? How's everybody doing today? Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be giving you a deep breakdown into four of the best prospects that I think you need to know for the 2021 NBA draft class. I'm going to be giving you some player comparisons for them, about their play style, about their potential. I'm also going to be giving some player breakdowns, just some analysis about how they play and their play style. Let's get right into it. What I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be giving up three comparisons for these guys: play style, physical, and potential. So I looked over like some physical attributes for these players, looking over their play style, and then also looking over what potential they have for their careers. The first guy that I think really has to be named in this conversation as one of the best guys in this draft class is Evan Mobley. So if you look at Evan Mobley, he's a big guy, big 7 foot frame. He's rather skinny. I mean, he's not, obviously doesn't use his physicality the best, but I think he's skinny for his height. Obviously, that might cause problems against big men, but I mean, you look at his play style overall, and I think the play style that I really look at him, the play style that I really think of him when I think of a guy like Evan Mobley, I think the play style that comes first to mind is Bol Bol. I mean, I know it's a bit of a freak. Bol Bol, he's really just like an all around menace, but I think that kind of like crafty playmaker. He has a really clean, smooth offensive skill set, solid handle, but it's a bit loose sometimes, which I think can be an issue. It tightens up when he really needs to in the post, but sometimes it's very loose. He's just smooth, agile guy, good touch, confident, good touch in the paint, confident from three, can hold his own on the perimeter and uses his long wingspan to block shots. Those are just some of the pros that I think about him as a player. The cons, he's really not a self-sufficient shooter. Can't be really the number one option on a pro team, and he's really skinny for his height, which might cause problems as a big man. But like, I really think that nonetheless, despite these problems, I think he still has a chance to be one of the better guys in this class. So I think that physical the play style comparison really reminds me of Bol Bol, just that big man, skinny, do everything on the floor, not necessarily this defensive Swiss Army knife, but he does what he needs to. He holds his own on the perimeter, as I said earlier. So that's going to be the play style comparison. Then the next physical comparison that I'm going to have to make for Mobley is Chris Bosh. Both are big guys, power forward centers who have touch from three, rather skinny for their size, but they get the job done using their physicality. Both I think could really be. I think when you look at the players, they have very similar, but similar physically, similar play style. I went with Bol Bol for the play style just because that's what really came first to mind. But I'm going to go with Chris Bosh for the physical just because I really think that's the one that makes sense. Then for the potential, I went with Brook Lopez just because I think Brook Lopez really, I think he really is an all-encompassing. He's really the all-encompassing player where like you think of like a big man who took his team somewhat or didn't really ever take his team far, was good throughout his entire career, but never really was an all-star. Never really was a top player in the league. I mean, Brook Lopez was very good on the Nets. Obviously, you can make the argument those were empty numbers. However, nonetheless, I really think Brook Lopez was very good when he was on the Nets and definitely could have made an All NBA team if he was playing on the right team. He really just needed the guard play to feed him the ball. And once Evan Mobley gets that in the NBA, God willing, Evan Mobley gets the right ball handlers and ball fed to him in the right way. I think Evan Mobley can really become maybe not a superstar, but I really think he can be one of the better guys and one of the better big men in the league, or at least one of the best big men in the league, and definitely one of the best big men in this class. I mean, you look at the big men in this class; he's by far the best one right now. Obviously, there are other guys in this class who I might be able to get to in future videos. However, no more big men for this video. The next three guys are guards or wings, but I think that's a pretty good breakdown on Evan Mobley. Not a self-sufficient scorer, can't be a number one option on a pro team. But I mean, I really do think that's one of the points I'm going to keep emphasizing. But I think the other thing that I have to keep emphasizing is he's got a good touch. Really, he's a good player in the paint. Really, just knows what he's doing, and I think that's really just the all encompassing. That's the all encompassing comparison for Evan Mobley. The next player I'm going to come up with now is Jonathan Kuminga. And when I think about Jonathan Kuminga, the first guy who comes to mind with his physical skill set is Richard Jefferson. Not necessarily the most built players, not necessarily the tallest guys, about average height, about average weight, not muscular, but not skinny, really just average everywhere. So it's a pretty simple comparison, but I think when I'm looking at a lot of the players overall in time have been close to his weight and height, I think that's really like That's really the accurate comparison. And when it comes to play style, I think of a guy like Josh Smith. Really good. He's a really good slasher and knows how to attack the rim. He's lean and athletic. He's not necessarily the most build athletic. He's not necessarily the most build, but he's definitely lean and athletic. You can use this body really to paint. Really, he can really bully people in the paint like no other players in this class amongst the wings and guards. He really just knows how to do that. He stays calm in paint double teams. He really knows how to make the right reads. He's not always able to come through and complete the pass, but I think NBA big men can do better for him. They just better catching passes. They know better lane spacing, and I think that'll help him out so much in the NBA. I think some issues that could come up for him is he's just sometimes too quick to settle for bad shots, even when it's clearly not the right move. Just like quickly taking a pull up jumper, even if it's just a heat check. If it's a deep pull up jumper or a deep jumper when it's just really not the right move, it could be a big issue for him in the NBA just because he's not really ready to take those shots. He's a great on ball player, as we've seen, as you may have seen in the G League, but I think he really needs to learn a lot more off ball play to ever make any sort of leap to being a superstar in the NBA, just because you look at the best NBA players right now, they all have such good off ball games and defense. And since he's really has yet to be able to make, he's just not like an amazing defender. He's average, really, maybe a bit below average, considering he's a rookie and he's really young. But I think over time he'll definitely get better at that. I think he really needs to learn more off ball play to ever really become an offensive superstar in the league. And then the last con that I really think is an issue for him is when he gets those mismatches that he can either get on a smaller guy in the post or he has a bigger guy out on the wing. He just does not recognize it, and he does not really attack the area he needs to attack. If he gets a big on the wing, he might just pull up for a shot, or if he gets a guard in the paint, he might try and like do a fadeaway or just like dribble out. I mean, either way, no matter what he does, it's just really not recognizing the mismatches. And I really think it can cause lots of bad shots and turnovers in the league. And then when I think about potential, I think of the name Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson is another guy who he was an all-star a few times, I believe, but never really. He was just really a great scorer, and I think if you put him on the right team, he really becomes and is like the number 2 or 3 option. I think he really can excel in that role, but I really don't think you can ever build an entire team around him and expect it to win too many games. You can definitely build a team around him that's very, very good and expect it to maybe graze 40, maybe you can get it up to 45, 50 wins, but I don't really think you can get anywhere further than that. It really just stays stagnant at that. You get up there, but you can't really get much further. You're not going to be a deep team in the playoffs built around Jonathan Kuminga. Obviously, I could be wrong about that. You never know, but that's, as of what I'm looking at in his G League performance, that's my prediction for him. I think this is pretty good and all-encompassing prediction. You've got physical Richard Jefferson, play style Josh Smith, and potential Joe Johnson. Lots of guys who I really think I really think that's the perfect 3 sets of comparisons that you need for a guy like Kuminga. I hope I'm right. I'm not sure, but we will see. Next up, we have Jonathan Kuminga's pre-league buddy, Jalen Green. I think the perfect physical comparison when you're looking at a guy like Jalen Green is definitely going to have to be Jordan Clarkson. It really doesn't. It might not look like it shows up like that, but they're both guys who are built, but they're not. They're athletic, not necessarily built in the same way. But like, I really think both of these guys, they have the same. They have the I guess not phenomenon, but they have the play style, or they have the physicality where like they're 6'5", 6'6". They use their body not in the same. They use their body in pretty similar ways to get shots, both pure scorers. I think that Jordan Clarkson was very close for the play style comparison. However, I went with someone else who you will see in just a sec. But they're both muscular, but I don't think either of them dominate with their muscle. But I think that Jordan Clarkson has to be the physical comparison. Next, when it comes to play style, I think the guy who really who really showed up for me is Zach LaVine. He has I think the pros when I think of a guy like Jalen Green, I think the pros, this doesn't really start off with play style, but he has the G League route, which you include the schedule and experience with that level of talent, which really I think will help him a ton in the league. It doesn't really have much to do with Zach LaVine, but I'll get to that in just a sec. The G League route really helps players with when you look at the schedule that they take, the experience with the level of that talent, just like looking over the guys who they play, it's NBA veterans, other would be college players, but they took the G League route, which I think helps them a ton. And just playing on that type of schedule, playing in a bubble where it's not like college where you're just hoping to win the next game and move on in the tournament. You're really playing like I feel like you're playing in game sevens almost, just because of the way that the rest of the talent is you're going up against. It's also former college players it's also former college players or former NBA stars. He played with guys on his team like former NBA veterans, Jarrett Jack and Amir Johnson, which I think both of them probably helped him out a ton. So I think the next thing when you look at Jalen Green and the play style comparison to Zach LaVine, as you look at how much explosiveness these guys have, they speed up a ton when they get up to the basket. And I think that really helps him out so much when he's trying to attack the rim and get around guys. And I think another thing that kind of adds on to that, but is that he's really good with the ball in transition. He knows how to make the right passes. He knows how to finish, which is just such a huge plus when you get a guy like that right out of the draft. And he can really help any team like that. And then the other thing is there's this whole skinny factor, which is evident in a lot of guys in these classes. No real like built guys, except for the guy who I'm going to get to in just a sec. That'll be another story. That'll be the next segment. But I think when you look at it, he's skinny, but he can take on contact. That's really like the question: are they skinny? Can they take on contact? The answer is skinny, but can take on the contact. It's going to be much harder to deal with in the NBA. And I think that'll help him out a ton. I think the other con, when you look at the G League level of talent, I think you could just consider it misguiding. It's still not the pros. It's still similar to college. However, I think the whole fact that these guys are in a bubble environment for the entire season, and they have an actual schedule that I feel like is just a bit more rugged, and I think that probably helps them out a ton. Then the last bit of the comparison is similarly to Zach LaVine. On defense, he gambles for steals, which doesn't pay off often. He's not very quick, just has a slightly lower IQ defensively, which I think could really be an issue for him. But nonetheless, I think at the last bit, the comparison that I'll get to him for his potential is Bradley Beal. I know it's a big shot, but Bradley Beal is such a good scorer, and I think he can be that number one option with a good number two. And you put him with a really good number two, or you just give him a really good team to play around, you're going to get a really great product. And I think once you just have that really good centerpiece in Jalen Green, I think he's one of the two guys in this class that can really be that centerpiece. There might be more, I'm not sure yet, but we will see as the draft process continues to go on and on. But for now, I think that'll be the comparisons. For his physicality, it's Jordan Clarkson. For his play style, it's Zach LaVine. And for his potential, it is going to be Bradley Beal. And last but not least, the big name you have been waiting for, you're hearing it now, it is Cade Cunningham, the superstar college player coming out of Oklahoma State. Super all-around great prospect. We'll get him to him right off the bat. The physical comparison for him is Luol Deng. Built 6'8" guy, really knows how to use his physicality well, just like Luol Deng did. Obviously, they don't play the same position. Cade Cunningham's in point guard, and yeah, he still has the physicality of Luol Deng. Big, pretty muscular, not Giannis level muscular, and not really Giannis level, and not really any sort of insane sort of athleticism, but really built, and they know how to use their physicality well, which I'll just get right into it. The play style for a guy like him is Goran Dragic. They're really, both of these guys are really crafty playmakers who score on three levels, great in transition, and they're really just hard to guard because of the mixture of size, handle, shooting, finishing. It's just an absolute many-headed monster for both of these guys. And I think the other really big thing about Cade Cunningham is that we really can find open players, cross-court, and make those difficult passes that a lot of players that I've seen just cannot simply make. I was watching the USC Gonzaga game, and I noticed that the thing that USC simply was not able to do was make those cross-court passes and find open guys, which is something that you really need to do in the NBA. And it was simply something that if USC was going to be able to do, they would be in the Final Four right now. Sadly, they're not. I was rooting for them for my bracket. But either way, I think you just look at a guy like Cade Cunningham, and he's one of those people who can make those cross-court passes. It's really hard to guard a guy like him who can shoot, score. He can shoot, he can finish, He's really good handler. He makes such amazing passes, so crafty, just really knows what he's doing. Obviously, the passes aren't always the best, but you just look at them and you just see, wow, how does he make that pass? And you think about it like, wow, that is really that's not a pass that a lot of people would be able to make. So it's fine if it's just a bit slower. However, when you look at when we're gonna go right into the cons now, he's not that hard when he passes it. He just doesn't throw the ball as hard as you would like. It's just a bit softer. It's a bit more of a lob, which I think is something I can just pass in college, but not in the NBA. It might just be able to find NBA defenders might just be able to find steals off of lazy passes, which really sucks. But it's really hard for him to get on that end. It's really just hard for him to get extra passes off of those ends just because NBA defenders might just be able to get some extra steals there. Then I think another thing is when he's on offense, he can commit way too early to passes that he just does not. He tries to make those right passes, but then it just isn't there, and he still goes through with it. If I think he becomes better at that, he'll have much better selection. And once he becomes just a bit better at that, it'll be super easy for him to become one of the best playmakers in the NBA. And then last but not least, which is an issue that I think will definitely get fixed in the NBA, is that he's not very explosive as of now. That's something that physically is something that obviously he lacks, but I think it could come to him very soon. And then I think last but not least, the potential for Cade Cunningham is Dwayne Wade. I really think he's a guy who can just be a number one playmaker on a team. Maybe not necessarily the number one scorer, but a number one playmaker on a team, and just take them right to the title as long as you put him with another really good superstar. Maybe not even a big man as long as they're a wing, but I think really when you think about the ideal duo for Cade Cunningham, you want a guy who's like a big guy who can really. I mean, what do you really want around Cade Cunningham? He has a lot of shooters just because how good a playmaker he is. And then I think you really always just want a dump off guy like maybe a Nikola Vucevic. That would be a really good guy. So I'd love to see him on the Bulls next to Zach LaVine. The defensive fit doesn't work a ton there. But yeah, that's going to be it for the comparisons for Cade Cunningham, physical Luol Deng, play style Goran Dragic, and potential Dwayne Wade. That's going to be it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed these comparisons. I hope I'm right in the future, but I'm not 100% sure. Make sure you guys hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and if you're still here at this point, I think you better do it. If you enjoyed my content enough to be here, you've got to hit that subscribe. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hit the like, subscribe, comment something down below, whatever you want. I'll see you guys with the next video. Peace.